totally sweet. This is Late Night with the Pleasures Dudes with Stanton Friedman, top physicist in the world on extraterrestrial stuff and other stuff. My first question that I would like to ask, Mr. Friedman, in a published report from 2000, the French Air Force said that the USA has, no question, an extraterrestrial craft. Where would the French government come up with this?
Well, if you look at the report, it's called the Cometa Report. It's a combination report written by military and intelligence and industrial people in France. And they've looked over the evidence that anybody else can look over, and they've come to this conclusion. Roswell, other situations like that, the multiple witness radar visual cases, the physical trace cases, they had done their homework, and they concluded that not only are these things real, the people involved in the French study had done their homework, and they realized that there was an enormous amount of information on which to base the rational conclusion that the planet's being visited, that wreckage has been recovered, Roswell and other places, and that the United States was not sharing the technology it must have gleaned from some of these experiences that had taken place, not just from wreckage, but also from monitoring the flight patterns, the data. We have airplanes chasing UFOs after all. There's no reason they can't make measurements of various and sundry things. And the French resented the fact that the U.S. wasn't sharing its information. I mean, they're part of the West, et cetera, et cetera. Nationalism is the big game on this planet. And one of the reasons I give for countries not wanting to give out their data is because they don't want to share that information. Everybody's worried about the other guy beating them to the punch when it comes to new technology. Everybody on the planet would like to figure out how saucers work. Everybody would like to become friendly with the aliens, so they'll be on our side. This is the traditional approach. Flying saucers are a destabilizing influence. And I give a little sequence that illustrates my point of view on this. I say every civilization is concerned about its own survival and security. That means you have to keep tabs on the primitives in the neighborhood, but only close tabs on those primitives who show signs of being able to bother you. At the end of World War II, there were 3 signs that this primitive society whose major activity is tribal warfare, that's us for anybody who doesn't recognize it. We only killed 50 million of our own kind during World War II. I mean, destroyed 1,700 cities. Those are not the signs of a friendly society. Anyway, it was perfectly obvious that soon these idiots would be out bothering them, soon meaning 100 years, which on a cosmic timescale is nothing. The 3 signs were nuclear weapons, powerful rockets, German V-2s were being used to destroy cities in England and so forth, and radar as the forerunner of a whole bunch of electronics developments. There was no radar before the Second World War, incidentally. You put them all together, and we got to worry about these idiots. Isn't it amazing that the only place on the surface of planet Earth in July 1947 where you could study all 3 of these technologies was southeastern New Mexico. First nuclear weapon was tested at Trinity Site on White Sands Missile Range. Same place where we were testing the powerful V-2 rockets that we had grabbed from the Germans. And that's where we had our best radar to track the rockets, which sometimes didn't go where they were supposed to go. They went south instead of north on occasion. Rather embarrassing, as Mexicans don't like being hit with rockets coming at them. Anyway, what I'm saying is, you don't need to get esoteric. The science fiction writers have come up with all kinds of notions about how aliens would behave. I make a very simple assumption. Everybody's concerned about their own survival and security. Now, there's another part of this. Where do we stand in the larger scheme of things? Now, Earthlings have traditionally thought, we were the big shots. We're on top of the mountain. We're it. And as a matter of fact, a few hundred years ago, it was thought that the world was created in 4004 BC. I think it was a Thursday afternoon, October 24th, as I recall, from Bishop Usher. And so we know most about the past history of the planet. And we're it. Well, now we know that instead of 4004 BC, it was more like 4 billion than 4 BC. And we look around the neighborhood, and where we used to think we're the only solar system, there's planets all over the place. They're not easy to find, but we'll be finding a lot more of them because we've got new instruments up there that are better able to look. And so suddenly our insignificance begins to come to the fore. Do we expect that we're the most advanced beings around? Well, as a matter of fact, in one very famous abduction case, Betty and Barney Hill in New Hampshire in 1961, there was a star map observed, and without going into all the details, some very fascinating scientific work was done that shows that the base stars for those beings appeared to be two stars, Zeta 1 and Zeta 2 reticuli, that are only 39.3 light years from here. That's just down the street. The galaxy is 100,000 light years across, so they're also only an eighth of a light year apart from each other. Now that's 35 times closer than we are to the next star over of any kind. These are two sun-like stars. You can see the other star all day long from a planet around the other one. And one little extra detail. They're a cool billion years older than the sun. That has two implications. One, they've had more time to develop advanced technology for transit between the stars. Technological progress comes from doing things differently in an unpredictable way. The future is not an extrapolation of the past. You have to change how you do things. Well, just look where we've done the last 100 years, then project forward 500, 5,000, 5 million. And the other thing is, of course, there'd be far more incentive for interstellar travel when you got a next-door neighbor. Eighth of a light year away, no big deal. So that gives you a very different picture of where we might fit in the scheme of things. Insignificant would seem to be, except that we're good at killing. We may have set the record for the most deaths on a planet per year of anybody in the neighborhood, because everybody else had the good sense to stop the killing and start living with each other.
Okay, well, let me follow up with this. From abductee information that you've got from abductions, how much info about the nature of existence or God or spiritual things has been learned from possible extraterrestrials to some of the people that have supposedly been on crafts and had communication?
Not a heck of a lot is about the best answer I can give. What we have is not that Earthlings are being treated as equals with their abductors, but rather as specimens. The thing here is they don't seem to be gathering us to be treated as equals. They have a job to do, they do it. Now, what are they doing? Now, it depends on who you talk to, but there's a lot of work indicating they're doing hybridization, they're doing DNA checks, or they're grabbing samples from us. And, you know, people have said, well, why would they do that? They could clone their own beings if they wanted. Well, it turns out that Earthlings have an enormous variety of DNA. It's not like a herd of prize cattle, which may all have the same father from artificial insemination. And there are all kinds of genetic diseases, for example. Some more serious than others, some more common than others. 1 in 5,000 males has hemophilia, for example. It's a genetic disease. Well, you got to pick up a lot of specimens if you're going to find 1 in 5,000, and that's not the only disease by far. And it may be they have figured out how to treat these diseases. We're going toward genetics as a way of doing some of this. So who knows what they're doing? Maybe there's a genetics factory out in someplace near Zeta Reticuli which wants more specimens. I don't know. And they could be here for lots of different reasons. Maybe it's to get data before we destroy ourselves. We don't have a very good past to talk about.